Hello and welcome to today's Stretch for Strength class, where we are going to be working on getting your front splits. This is going to be an active stretching class that's going to help you build strength to be able to get into and maintain those front splits in any position. All right, so for props, you're going to need a yoga mat and potentially some additional cushioning for your knees. You're going to need 2 yoga blocks and a yoga strap. All right, let's get going. So we're going to start down on the mat and get into an all fours position. And I just want you to take your hands slightly further than your shoulders. And we're just going to start with some deep hip circles. Really pushing your hips forward and backwards so that we can start to warm up the hip sockets and the hip joints. And let's change directions. Good, trying to make those circles nice and deep, as big as you possibly can. 3 more, 2, and last one. All right, coming back into all fours. Now, if you've got sensitive knees, you might want to just fold your mat twice or get some additional cushioning. Otherwise, you're back into your all fours position. And we're going to be lifting up the right leg into a 90-90 shape. We're just going to go down and up. And I really want you to be aware of your internal rotation. So we don't want this knee opening out to the side. We want to internally rotate so that our foot is pointing directly up towards the ceiling. Push the floor away from you and really zip up the core. So I don't want you to dump into the lower back and try and use back flexibility to get that leg up. I want you to keep the core nice and tight, and we are literally just using the power of the quads and the glutes to get that leg up. This is also going to help open the front of the hip, which is what you need for your front splits. Good. So I'm squeezing my hamstrings. That's it. And let's just do 3 more. Hold on to that core, keep zipping up the pelvis. 2. And last one. And now let's do some hip cars. So we're going to go down, we're going to open the leg out to the side, and then back into internal rotation to 90-90. And keep going with this. So warming up the hip socket and just really activating the part of the brain that is controlling squaring of your hips. So especially as you move from side into back, you're going to want to let the lower back go. Don't do that. Keep zipping up that pelvic floor. Keep closing the ribs, closing the core. Lower abdominals suck in so that the lower back does not arch. 1 more in this direction. Get that perfect 90-90 shape and reverse. Kicking the leg backwards, out to the side, and then knees come together. Hip cars or hip circles, really focusing on holding onto your core and building the body awareness between brain and body to keep your hips square and not let go of that core and dump into the lower back. Good, that's really what we want here. Good. And 1 more like this. Out to the side. Good, and then let's change sides. So I'm going to just fold over the other part of my mat. And this time, left leg comes up. Push the floor away from you, zipping up that lower abdomen and back down. Closing the ribs, squeezing the glutes, and powering up using the quads, the glutes, the hamstrings to really get that leg up. Do not let that lower back go. Good. Working on that internal rotation to square off the hips. So not letting that knee pop out to the side. Okay, with it's not like doing an attitude in ballet. We really want to keep the legs perfectly parallel, and that's going to help with having a nice square split to the front. 2 more. Push the floor away from you. Close the ribs, close the core. And last one. Now we're going to switch to those hip cars. Out to the side and back down. Up, out to the side and back down. Zipping up that pelvic floor. Squeeze the core. Don't dump into the lower back. I know it's hard. I know you could get a much bigger range of motion if you did allow yourself to arch into the lower back, but then we're not building the right kind of strength. 1 more this direction. Good, and change. So leg comes out to the side. Now careful here as you rotate round to the back, zip up the core and back down. So you're having to work really hard to not let go of the core. So if you do the work, the results will pay off down the line when it gets to being able to maintain a nice square split, which looks so beautiful. And as you get more advanced into things like contortion and advanced yoga, you really need to have a square split. Otherwise, you just can't get into the deeper back bends. Good. That's it. Last one. Good. And then I'm just going to unfold my mat. And now we're just going to alternate going into a deep lunge, back to all fours, change legs, back to all fours, and alternating. So we're still kind of in our warm-up phase here. So we really do just want to get a little bit of movement to get the blood flowing into the hip area. Next, we're going to be going into a down dog, and we're going to be moving between plank and down dog just to kind of warm up the hamstrings and the shoulders. Good. One more of these each side. That's it. All right. Tucking the toes and pushing up into your plank, and just hold it there for a second. This is our first down dog of the day. So your hamstrings might be feeling a little tight. You can walk it out. Twist at the hips. 4, 3, 2, 1. Back to the middle. And then make your stance nice and wide between hands and feet. And just coming forward into a plank. And again, practice zipping up the pelvis, closing the rib cage, and then pushing back into your down dog. And plank, and down dog, and plank, and down dog. One more like this, plank. And let's hold your down dog. Bring the feet together to touch, hands stay where they are, find your right leg. We're just going to lift the right leg up and down, switch to the left, up and down. And for now, I think don't worry too much about square hips. Let's just warm up these legs. So I'm going to let you just lift that leg as high as what you want, open the hip out, just because we are warming up. Good. And let's do one more each side. Good. And now we're going to hold the right leg up to the top. And now we're going to get square. So first of all, in your down dog, push the floor away from you. And now I want you to think about not dumping into the lower back. So I'm really dumping into it now. And then when I really think about zipping up my core, I can feel how I'm now not dumping into that lower back. And then I want you to think about squaring those hips. So you might find that your split isn't as high and as beautiful, but I really want you to think about dropping that right hip down towards the ground. And from there, lifting up that foot into splits, holding onto the core and squaring the hips. And even if you don't get the same range of motion, it's fine. You might have a micro bend in your left leg, but I really want you to keep your right leg as straight as possible. So point the foot, flex the knee, stretch that quad as much as you can. Keep rolling that right hip down to the floor and keep zipping up those lower abs, navel into spine, and hold it at your maximum range of motion with perfectly closed core, closed ribs, and square hips. Good. And now we're going to flex the foot and we're going to do little hamstring curls for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it there. Keep closing those splits, close those hips. And now we're going to try and press our heel to the ceiling for 10, 9, 8, 7, close the core, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Extend the leg, close the core, close the ribs, square off the hips, extend as much as you can, and coming down. Good, just walk it out. If your wrists are really hurting you, you're welcome to come down onto your knees and just do a couple of these wrist circles. Good. And change directions. So some of this work in downward dog can be a bit heavy on the wrists, but don't worry, over time they will get used to it. All right, let's go for the other side. So coming straight back up, finding your left leg this time and lifting it up. And just open it nice and wide and just get to your maximum range. Feel how good that feels. And then let's start correcting it. So pushing the floor away from you so we're not collapsing into the shoulders. Now square off the hips. Turn that left hip down towards the floor. Zip up the lower abdomen, navel to spine. You can have a bend in the right leg, but keep the left leg completely straight, pointing the toes, flexing the knee. And then lift that leg up as high as you can. And gentle pulses, maintaining your core, maintaining your square hips. Keep trying to roll that left hip down, down, down. Good. And then just trying to get a little bit more range of motion there. Remember to keep that foot pointed at the top. Knee is straight, quad is highly engaged and activated. Good, and let's flex the foot and little hamstring curls. Remember to square off the hips, close the lower abs, and 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it there and pulse the heel up to the ceiling as if you're trying to stand on the ceiling. Close the core, square the hips, and 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And extend that leg. Get your perfect alignment. Close the core and extend as much as you can in perfect form. Good. And then come down. Walk it out in your downward facing dog and come back down onto all fours. And just take a moment. If you need to, you can lie back in your child's pose, or you can sit up and you can just roll the wrists, getting ready for some low lunges. So shake it out. Have your yoga blocks nearby and potentially your knee cushioning if you have sensitive knees. All right, so what I want you to do, I've got my left leg in front and we're just going to alternate between a low lunge and pike back or push back with a flexed foot. Low lunge, push back. So you can do this with your blocks if you're a bit higher. And I want you to try and keep that back nice and straight. We don't want to be hunching. We also don't want to be overly arching. We just want a nice straight flat back. And just moving between low lunge and push back. 2 more. Last one. Good. Okay, now I like to call this dancer's lunge because I like to go up onto my toes and I just like to bend and straighten the back leg. Again, using your yoga blocks if you need to. So I'm not lifting my hips, keeping them nice and low and just completely straightening that back knee, squeezing the glutes at the back. And then you should really feel a nice deep stretch in your hip flexor on the right side. And that's really what we're going for. Good. Okay, we're going to hold at the top. So really get those hips as low as you can, get the back leg as straight as possible, and just feel for being really light on your yoga blocks. If this is already intense, then you hold it there. If not, you want to try and get your hands pressing into your thigh. And just rock forward and back on that back toe. Stretch the back leg, squeeze the glutes, lifting the chest up nice and tall. Good. And then for those of you that feel you still have some strength, arms up and hold. Nice, deep, deep lunge. Straighten this back leg as much as you can. Squeeze the glutes. And gently coming down. And we're going to pike back. You can have your blocks if you need them. Flexing the front foot. And we're just going to do some windscreen wipers. That's it. So I'm rotating from the very top of my hip. I'm definitely not twisting at the knee, the ankle, the toes, trying to force them down. They only move as much as I am moving my hip at the very, very top. So all this movement comes from the hip. Good. 3, 2, 1, and let's change sides. All right. So moving into our other side. If you have sensitive knees, just rolling over your mat. Good, and we're just going to alternate between a deep low lunge and a push back. Good. I'm going to flex my toes as I push back. That's it. Remembering to always use your yoga blocks. You don't want this to feel extremely painful and uncomfortable. If it does, rather just bring yourself up a little bit higher onto your yoga blocks and feel comfortable. Otherwise, it just puts you off stretching. All right, so we always want to be within the realm of comfort when it comes to stretching. And let's hold it at the bottom, coming up onto the toes, and I'm just going to bend and straighten that back knee. Squeezing my glutes at the back. The more I squeeze my glutes, the more I release my hip flexor in the front. Good. Getting that back leg as straight as possible. bending my front knee and keeping my hips nice and low, because that is how I'm building up the flexibility for a split. Right, we don't want to be up here, you want to be down nice and low, and let's hold it there at the bottom. And then if you feel nice and light, you can come up onto your knee, keep squeezing the glutes, stretch the back leg, lift that chest up nice and tall, and just rocking backwards and forwards on those back toes. Good. Breathe. And if this feels good for you and you still have some strength, arms up. Hold it there, squeeze the glutes, straighten that back knee, chest is tall, arms back by the ears, hips down nice and low, and slowly come down and push back into our pike back and windscreen wipers. Good. Remembering that this rotation is coming from the top of the hip, and that is what is moving my feet around. Good. And just releasing what we've just done. 3, 2, 1. All right. Flipping over your mat. For the next part, if you have very, very tight hip flexors, I recommend only using one yoga block. If you're a little bit looser or more advanced, then go ahead and grab 2. And very important, they are not going underneath the lower back. They're going sort of at your sacrum, lower, almost to your glutes, and that is where we want the blocks to be placed. So we definitely don't want to be arching into the lower back. So they're not onto your lower back. You're moving them down so that they are holding the weight of your hips. All right, and just feel how that feels. If you extend your legs and it's really pulling into your back or in your hips, then please go down to just one block. Otherwise, if this feels good, then take your right knee and bring it up into your chest and hold it there. Squeeze it in. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. You might need to have your yoga strap nearby, so just have that nearby you. Good. And then arms down to the side, and we're just going to extend and bend our leg. But we are going through our feet as we do this. So in this exercise, you are articulating the feet. So I'm pointing my ankle, then my toes and bending. Then I'm flexing my toes, flexing my ankle and straightening. Ankle, toes, bend, toes, ankle, straighten. Ankle, toes, bend, toes, ankle, straighten. And this way we are warming up the feet, we are building strength and mobility in the feet, and we're working on our hamstring flexibility. So don't feel discouraged if this gets extremely painful in the shins. It's pretty normal if you don't do ballet and you don't have any kind of strength work ever in your feet that you do. It's pretty normal for it to really start to burn. So we'll do just one more and then we'll shake it out. Really, really good. All right, so from there, we're going to just hold this knee and I want you to bend and straighten the other leg. So I'm just using my other hand on the floor to help balance me. And I'm really trying to squeeze my knee into my chest and then bend and straighten the opposite leg. Good. Trying to get it as low to the ground as what I can. Ideally, at the end, you want to feel the toes sliding along the floor. 3 more. 2. And last one. Good. Just shake out that front foot if it's still feeling a bit tight. And I want you to flex it now and lift it up to the ceiling. And this is where you most probably need your yoga strap. So just placing it on the ball of your foot and straightening that leg. So I've got both my feet flexed and I'm really flexing my knees as well. You're going to inhale to prepare and exhale. I want you to gently kick your foot away from you into the strap. So it's like you're trying to lower your leg back down to the floor, but your hands won't let you. Inhale, exhale, kick back. Please don't use more than 20% effort here. Inhale, release, and see if you can bring your foot closer to your face. And exhale, resist back. 20% effort. If you go too hard, you're just going to do micro tears and traumas to the hamstrings, which is going to set you back. Inhale, bring the foot closer if you can. If not, you just maintain where you are. And exhale, kick back. Inhale and exhale. If you are pretty flexible and you don't need a strap, you can also do this just holding with your hands. Now in this position, I really want you to think about your hip alignment. So we tend to kind of lift the right hip up towards our face. I want you to think about pushing that right hip down so that it's level with the left hip. And you might find that then you lose some of that nice height in your leg, but we really want that. And then try not to get a micro bend in this knee. Try to keep it perfectly straight, even if it means you can only have your leg at 90 degrees. And that's where your strap will really come into play. So with that strap, I want you to get perfect alignment. Practice getting that nice aligned hip. Flex the foot, flex the knee, inhale, and then exhale, let go of the strap, and with your own strength, so the strength of your quad and your stomach muscles, I want you to bring that leg closer to your face, but keep those hips perfectly aligned, keep the leg nice and straight, foot is flexed. Use the strength of your own muscles. So those of you that do ballet or dancing, this would be what is required to développé your leg devant and hold it there by yourself. Okay, so this is that strength. Use the stomach muscles, lower abdominals, quads, fighting against gravity here. Good, and then just shake it out. Let's go into the other side. So active flexibility, active stretching to really help you improve with all these positions that require your legs to be lifted up and held in a split against gravity. So lengthen both legs along the mat. And this time bend the left knee in. And already here, just feel for that alignment. Make sure that your left knee is not poking up. You want to push it down so that it's level with the other side. Good. And then squeezing it in as much as you can. And then we're just going to bring the right knee in and out. Lengthening it along the floor, ideally, if you can. Good. That's it. And keep squeezing that knee in towards the chest. Good, last one. Here we go. All right, releasing the knee. And now we're going to go toes, ankle, straighten, ankle, toes, bend. Toes, ankle, straighten, ankle, toes, bend. And keep going with that. So, articulating through the feet to build strength and flexibility, which is so good for you. If you think about it, pretty much 100% of our body weight is held up by our feet all day long. They're so much smaller in comparison to the rest of the body. So getting them strong and supple is really important for your overall health. And we definitely don't pay enough attention to our feet. We're in shoes all day long, so our feet really suffer from very limited mobility. So doing stuff like this is really a gift that you can give, not just your feet, but your whole body. Last one. And shake it out. All right, so checking your hip alignment once again, grabbing your strap. Let's flex the foot and let's just place the strap around the ball of our foot. And we're going to use that resistance stretching. So once again, just check that alignment of the hip, flexing both feet, keeping the knees flexed as well on both sides. So we want perfectly straight legs here. And then from there, you're going to inhale to prepare. And exhale, gentle resistance. Push that foot down towards the earth and counter resist it with your hands. Inhale, release, rebalance everything, re-straighten everything. See if you can bring your foot closer to your face. And exhale, 20% effort. That's all you need to do. Inhale, bring it back. Exhale, resist. Not overkilling it. Inhale. If you can't bring your foot closer to your face, you just keep it exactly where it is. Check that alignment always. If you're not using your strap and you're using your hands, good for you. But remember not to let that hip lift up. So never sacrificing form for depth. Keep those feet flexed, knees flexed. Inhale. Exhale, resist. One more, inhale. Exhale, and your feet might be shaking now at this point, which is totally normal. Good, and then let go the hands and let's use our own strength, quads and abdomen, to really bring that foot closer to our face with perfect alignment. Stretch that leg, flex the feet, align the hips, use those muscles, bring it down closer to your face, use your own strength, fight harder, let the legs shake. And come down and shake it out. Well done. Good. Building all kinds of strength and flexibility together. All right. Press your feet into the ground, lift the hips up, and just slide the blocks away from you. And we're going to be doing a similar thing without the blocks, so it should feel much easier. But we're just going to add in some ITB stretches. So lengthening the left leg along the mat, and the right leg is up to the ceiling. You can grab your yoga strap around the ball of the foot. And again, checking that alignment. So don't let that right hip pop up. Push it down so it's in a straight line with the left one. And just see where you're at. Good. So holding the foot 90 degrees, not past, and ideally not low if you can manage it, but just straight up to the ceiling, 90 degrees, using the strap to kind of push down into the earth. And from there, we're just going to cross the leg over about 45 degrees. We don't want to roll over so that the shoulder comes off the ground. So keep hips anchored, shoulders anchored, and just kind of crossing that leg. And this might be extremely painful for some of you with a tight ITB, which runs along the side of your outer thigh. And then bring it back to the center. And now using the strap to help you, you're going to almost kick into the strap and then just lower the leg out to the side. Don't roll. So you want to keep those hips facing directly up to the ceiling. And we don't need that leg going too high or too low. We just want it at exactly 90 degrees. Okay, and one more time, crossing the leg over the body, stretching out, and still trying to anchor that right hip down, not letting it roll off the mat. Good, and feel that ITB, it might be burning, and then slowly come up, back to center, and then back down. So we're not really allowing the strap to do the work. You're still using your muscles, but the strap is just giving you that support. So still flexing the knees, keeping the legs very, very straight, and then coming up. All right, and then one more time, we're going to try this active stretching. So you're going to bring the foot to your face as much as you can. Check that that right hip hasn't rolled upwards. Flex the feet, flex the knees. Inhale, exhale, bring that leg down. And then lastly, remove the strap and using your own muscles, inhale and exhale, bring that foot down to your face. Use your muscles, legs might be shaking. Use your abs, use your quads, keep those hips aligned, keep the legs perfectly straight. Use your strength, push it more and more and more, and slowly bring it down. Well done. Great, hopefully you saw a massive improvement between this time and when you did it on the blocks. All right, so let's do with our second side. So we're coming up. We've got the strap over the ball of our foot. Flex the foot, just keep it at 90 degrees. Check that alignment, that it's all good. And then I just want you to cross over, ITB stretch, and just go to where you're still within your realm of comfort and you're not hating life. And back up to the ceiling, and then slowly over to the side. Use control. You want to kind of control how the hips go. Try not to have this leg too low or too high, just 90 degrees. Use the abdominals to bring the leg back up to the ceiling, and then cross it over again. Check your hip alignment. Stretch that ITB, keep the legs perfectly straight. Back up to the ceiling, and one more time out to the side. Use your muscles to drop that leg. Control the rotation of the hips. Back up to the ceiling. Really good. And now let's try for that resistance stretching. Inhale. Exhale. Bring that foot down towards your face. Test your hips. Make sure that they haven't lost their alignment. Flex those knees. Flex those feet. Bring it down as much as you can with the strap. And then let go of the strap. Inhale. Exhale. Use that strength. Use your muscular strength. Bring that leg lower. Push it down. Keep this leg perfectly straight. Flex the knees. Flex the feet. Shoulders are down. Core is engaged. Use those muscles. Align the hips. More and more. Last push. And come down. Shake it out. Well Done. All right, we have one more exercise to do. So just rolling onto your side and coming back onto your mat. We're going to go into a low lunge, and then we're just going to push back into a triangle. Now for this, you might want your yoga blocks. Just have them nearby, maybe to start off with. And I want you to lift up the back heel. All right, so we're in a tabletop position, and then just come down to a low lunge and push back into a triangle. I want to make sure that your stance is wide enough. So if you were all the way down on the ground, this would be a very low lunge. It wouldn't be kind of a small lunge. Nice and wide and low, and then you're pushing back into a triangle. From here, just feel for having a nice long spine. So we don't want to be rounding the back, and we're not exactly arching, but we want a long spine. And once again, push your right hip backwards so that it is in its socket and it's not kind of pulling forwards. In its socket, just like that. And then from there, flex the front foot. Go up onto a flex and hold it there. If you do have sensitive heels, I know I do, then you might want to just double fold your yoga mat for some additional cushioning, because we're now going to try and balance. So getting your hips in line, so roll your back hip down and your front hip back. Lengthen the spine. Start with one arm, lifting it up to the ceiling or in front of you parallel, and then the other. And we're just going to try and hold it there. So this does test your balance, which is what we want. It also builds strength in the hamstring. So holding it there for as long as you can. Coming back down, taking a moment. Good. I'm actually going to refold my mat again because it is pretty intense on the heel. And let's just try one more round. So coming up, getting your balance first. And it might mean that you might need to lift your back a little higher than a perfect tabletop. Perhaps it's a little higher. Square off those hips, engage the core. This is the hard part. And then lift right arm parallel to the floor. And then left. And hold. And come down. Good. It's really challenging. And let's swap sides. All right, so heel into the mat. Back foot is up onto the heel, onto the toes, and then square off the hips, engage the core, lengthen the spine, square off those hips. So your right hip rolls forward, your left hip rolls back. Push the blocks away from you, lengthen the spine, left arm comes up parallel, and then right. And hold. And the side is much better for me for some reason. Still hard, but better. And come down. And it just shows you we do always have a good side. And funny enough, it's very strange for me that my left foot is in front, but I'm able to control my square hips much better with left in front. One more round. Good. Holding it there. Left arm up, lengthen the spine. Stretch those legs, square those hips, engage the core. Right arm and hold. Hold. Hold as long as you can. And then come down. Wow, that is so challenging. Good. So that is how we know we are building strength. My blocks have gone flying, and it is amazing. We are really, really working those muscles. All right, so as a final test, we are going to check out our splits. So what I want you to do is just fold your mat over a couple of times, because this is a little sore on the knees. Get your blocks ready in front of you. And starting with your right foot, we're just going to make sure that at the beginning, we're going to slowly slide down into a split. And I just want you to make sure that your back foot isn't sort of coming in across the center line, but it is perfectly aligned with your knee. All right, engage that core, and already from here, pull that right hip back, left hip forward, and come down into a low lunge. Good, come down nice and deep. And start to walk that foot forward. So right foot comes forward, keep zipping up the core. So it's really tempting here to dump into the lower back to get nice and low, but we don't want to do that. We've been working so hard not to do that. So we want to zip up that core, push the hip back, and then come down with perfectly square hips. Good. Start walking that foot forward. You can go up onto a flex. Some socks would probably be better here, or some sliders. Adjust the height of your blocks as you go. And to test, you can lift up the back knee and see if it comes up straight behind you and not flops in towards the midline. If it's flopping in, it means that your hips are not square. So then come up higher again and re-square the hips. Hold on to that core, close the ribs, push the right hip back, come down a little more. Keep testing. Let's keep that back leg up. Good. Come lower, come even lower, keep squaring off the hips. And as soon as you see your foot flopping into the midline, it means that you've gone too low. And if you don't get all the way down today, then you don't get all the way down. So sometimes being really square can be very humbling, especially if you're like me and you've had a split for many, many years, and suddenly you realize that your split has not been square. Then this is quite humbling to see, okay, I maybe don't have the flexibility I thought that I had, and just kind of retraining the body to get into a perfectly square split. Good. And keep pulling this right hip back. It may not want to cooperate, but just really trying your best to hold onto your core. And maybe at the end, you just get there. And I still see my foot is coming in a little bit across. I can see it across my body, which means my hips are not perfectly square. So that is something for me to work on, even though I do have a flat split. All right, let's do it with the other side, and then you are done. So this is great because it's just such a good check to see if in reality you do have those splits. All right, so from the very beginning, making sure that your foot is in line with your knee, zipping up the core, pulling right hip forward and left hip back. Hip headlights are facing directly forward and starting to come down into your low lunge. Good, walking this foot forward, just wiggling it, keep aligning those hips and keep zipping up the lower back. Good. And let's lift up the back knee so that we can make sure that we're aligned. Wiggle those foot forward, come down, zip up the core. Let's straighten the leg and flex the foot. Keep aligning those hips, zip up the core. Yep, that's looking good this side. This was my stronger side, so let's see if I can see a difference when it comes to an actual split. All right, and coming even more forward, not dumping into the lower back. Keep pulling left hip back, right hip forward. Good. That's still looking good. The side is much better. Zipping up those lower abs, navel to spine, close the ribs, and see if you can get all the way down. Good. So for me, this side is definitely better. I've got more alignment and control in this side. Still trying to hold on to that core and get into that nice square split all the way down. And then when we release, we should be in a very, very square split. So just to show you the difference, this is now probably the squarest split I've ever had in my life. And this is probably how most people are, with this hip open, the knee pointing sideways and the hip opening up. So we really want to try and drop that knee down, drop the hip down, and have a nice square split. All right, so very well done. Coming out of that, giving those legs a little shake. You have done really, really well today, and I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial pretty much about learning how to get your square splits. So if you enjoyed this workout and you would like more workouts like this, more stretches like this, please let me know in the comment section below, and I hope to see you at our next workout.